nowadays is that we are all anxious. We are anxious because we are connected to an ever-changing world and we cannot make sense of it. And really, my core belief is that we are all anxious because the speed of change is reaching the lifetime of people. Now changes happen while we live, while we work, and this makes a big difference for us. Why does this happen? This happens because the time to a paradigm shift has been falling exponentially. Here on this graph you can see on the vertical side you have the time in years for a paradigm shift. And on the horizontal side, the years ago it happened. We start with the billions of years. Cells took billions of years. Then we moved to body plants, mammals and primates. Those all took hundreds of years, hundreds of millions of years, tens of millions or millions of years. From there, we move to hundreds of thousands, that's Homo sapiens. Tens of thousands, that's stone tools. Thousands of years, that's agriculture, sailing, iron. Hundreds of years, that's the Industrial Revolution. Tens of years, that's television, the internet, electricity. And now we are in years. Smartphones, the web, they took years. This, as you can see in the source, comes from Ray Kurzweil, from the law of accelerating returns. Then Ray and Singularity have done an incredible job in diffusing how this exponential happens and what it implies to the world. We are a proud partner of Singularity University at Deloitte, and this has helped a lot transforming the clients and what they are thinking. When you take this very macro view of history and take it a lot more to our everyday life, we see that the average time for mass inventions to be adopted is also falling rapidly. At the beginning of last century, it took tens of years for electricity to be adopted or for radio. The PC or the mobile phone were a matter of 10, 20 years. The smartphone took less than 10 years and it's already in our lives. And if we look at things like Pokemon Go took weeks to reach to 100 million users. So that's the whole thing. The world now changed so fast that we are not able to cope with it. We don't have the decades we had before to adapt. Now we have to adapt in months. And we usually attribute this anxiety and this level of change to digital. And this was what Frederic was referring to. Digital in cloud, e-commerce, analytics, agile, social, customer experience and mobile. We are used to all that. This is what we talk about in this Congress. But we really think that this is only the tip of the iceberg. And actually, when you look beyond the tip of the iceberg, you should be afraid. And again, afraid is a pretty strong word and not an emotion that many of us like to feel. But we actually think that this emotion is the right emotion to get you to change. Afraid because there's a lot that's happening below that tip of the iceberg, and afraid because we need to be afraid to move and to move our organizations. It's a lot more comfortable to stay where we are, but if we are afraid, we will move. And we should be afraid because really what's below the iceberg, like with a real iceberg, is most of the stuff. Digital is important on top, but below there are other things that are going to be massive, transformative, things like the data-driven world with artificial intelligence, with advanced analytics, with automated decisions, things like the integration of the digital and the physical world, with the IoT, with physical robots, with virtual reality and enhanced reality, what we saw Facebook presenting in the last Congress. Things like the new energy and transportation matrix, the autonomous car, solar, storage. The world is changing. There are other things that might be not applied to everyone, but that apply to a lot of the industries, like the revolution in biotech with digital. That's going to change healthcare forever. It's going to change all of us forever. The revolution that we are going to see in digital governance with blockchain, maybe it's more relevant for banks or for insurance, but we are all going to see the consequences of this. So digital is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's a lot below that iceberg, and just that sheer number of technologies up there should be enough to make us all afraid. However, the fact that there are so many technologies is just part of the equation. The other big problem is we are not equipped to be able to deal with this technologies. They are exponential technologies, and we think in a linear way. If you look at the blue line, that's how we think. We think in a straight line, in a linear way. That's great, you know, for catching a football or for outrunning a tiger, but it doesn't work well for technology. Technology, when you put digital inside of it, is exponential, like you can see in the green line. And this means that throughout the lifetime of a technology, we have a mind that commits errors in the way that it predicts how it's going to work. At the beginning of the technology, it's always the same. It takes more time than our brain thinks. So we always think, okay, there was a lot of hype, it failed, you know, this is not important anymore. And it disappoints because we are expecting too much of it, and exponential growth compounds slowly at first. So, you know, a great phrase I heard at Singularity University is that if you want an overnight success, look for something that has been failing for 20 years, because maybe the time is now that it's going to get. Then the iPhone moment happens. In our linear world, there's no iPhone moment, it's continuous. But in the exponential world, there's a moment when actually the technology starts to surpass what we think it should be able to do. That's what Steve Jobs was able to see with the smartphone, you know, a technology that was 20 years being developed, touch screens and everything. There were prototypes in the 80s, but Steve Jobs said, you know, 2007, 2008, the technology will be ready. He brought it, and you know, it has changed the world. So those iPhone moment technologies are going to change how everything is going. And then, you know, beyond that iPhone moment, the technology continues to surprise us because it grows exponentially from there, and what it can achieve is really outstanding, and we cannot even imagine it. So what is that doing to enterprises? It's actually evolving the metabolic speed a lot for enterprises. As you see, fully half of the companies in the S&P 500 are different since 1999, and the average tenure of the companies in the S&P 500 is falling and will continue to fall to the future. Over the last 7 years, you know, great icons like Kodak or Nokia or BlackBerry fell, and new companies have been added to that index, like a Netflix, a PayPal, or a Facebook that didn't exist before, but are now part of our everyday lives. And we think that afraid is the right starting point for the journey you have to take, because afraid will move you to action. And working with a lot of companies, we've managed to find some of the lessons of how can we move from afraid to action. You need to start far away. You need to start with a 2030 vision. 2030 seems irrelevant today. How we know what's going to happen then? But that's the forcing device to think beyond the quarter. So with that 2030 in mind, you start by exploring exponential technologies. Explore what technologies are going to be relevant for you, so you can get an intuitive feel for those. Then reflect, you know, how are these technologies and these trends going to impact you in your industry, in your sector? How is the value chain going to change? Then you are aware and you start to become aligned as an executive team, and you move to envisioning what do you want your company to do in that distant future. This is not a typical financial plan. This is more a vision of where do you want to play in that 2030 future, and what challenges does it create for you. Do you need, you know, to have a data science capability you don't have? That's a challenge. Then you start moving to the short term, to 2017, acting in the short term. And you focus on which options are going to move you forward the most. And you choose those as an executive team. And then you can move forward to actually defining those initiatives and getting sponsors for them. And finally, you mobilize. You mobilize by approving those initiatives as a company, putting resources behind them, you know. The resource in question is critical here, and actually launching them and getting them going. That's the action part. That's what you are going to learn and you are going to change. So let me take you quickly through what we've learned in each of these 3 points. First, aware. The difficult thing about aware is that the amount of information that we are receiving right now is too much for any of us, quite obviously. So you have to choose. You have to choose where do you want to look, where do you want to focus, to be updated. You cannot be updated everywhere. So what drivers are needed for you to be aware in your industry? For that, what we built is a matrix of the technologies. Okay, we've ordered them on the horizontal axis by the time, things that are right now, because they are already in the last part of the exponential curve. The next iPhone moments that are coming, like autonomous cars or physical robots or energy, and then things that still have more runway for the future. And on the vertical axis, we've seen where in the value chain they impact. Are they front end, are they business model, are they back end, or are they data? You see a lot of technologies here. For us, the next question is, which ones should you be focused on? We think that you should be at least literate in all of them. You don't know what they mean, but you should only be deep in the 4 or 5 that are going to change your industry. And we've been doing that with a lot of industries. We work with experts in a lot of industries, and here you have the results of more than 10 industries in which we've ranked the technologies, which ones are relevant. We see some of them that are universal, like artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is really going to change everything that we do. That's probably the next big wave. Others, which are more related to digital, that are required in a majority, things like social networks, next generation advertising, big data, the sharing economy, gamification, Internet of Things, virtual assistants, cybersecurity. And then others that might be relevant for less than half of those industries, but they are transformative for those industries. Things like autonomous cars is going to be transformative for automotive, is going to be transformative for real estate, and for a lot more of these sectors. Biotech is going to be transformative for healthcare. So you really need to know where you are going to put your time. And then what we found is more powerful to getting you aware is seeing what others are doing. We really believe that, as William Gibson said, the future is here, it's just not evenly distributed. And when you see what the big tech players are doing, either these ones you have here or the Chinese players, which are also fascinating, or what the ecosystems are doing. You can get very deep into the fashion ecosystem, for example. What startups are doing there. And you can learn a lot from what's going on. And really, a lot of the business models of the future are already there in the startups. And these examples are what move executives to really become aware of what could be. Then align. We've seen that the big danger here is that only in-sync management teams can make progress. And a lot of teams are in different places right now. So we think you have to be aligned on the customer. Like Bezos says, I know what the customer is going to want 15 years from now, because it's not going to change regardless of the technology. You need to be aligned on the value chain and how it's going to be transformed, the value price equation and the platforms and how can they be leveraged. And you need to be aligned on where the industry is going and what role do you want to play there. Do you want to compete with Google? Do you want to be more the utility guy? You should have a clear picture of that as a team. And finally, moving to action. Action to learn and adapt, that's a big change. Action is not about firing and forgetting anymore. It's about learning and adapting continuously. 3 types of different actions. Actions at the core, I want to put data enablement in all my processes. Scaling edges, things that don't fit in the core but might be the next core. So you create a startup on the side to launch this, and then shaping strategies for the ecosystem. Things that you work as an ecosystem to transform your industry. And you should act in a different way. We really think that the 3-5 year horizon is not there anymore. It doesn't work. It gets obsolete before you launch even. And what you should do is act short term towards your shared long-term vision, and then learn and adapt as you execute. At Deloitte, we've been working with a lot of clients on this, and we found a lot of things that you can do in the short term that are going to allow you to learn and to move forward. Things like advanced analytics, personalization, innovation observatories, voice of the customer, Google Analytics for stores, robotics, cybersecurity, launching scaling edges. All these things are going to move you forward and are going to allow you to learn. So I encourage all of you to start experimenting and start learning right away. And I want to leave you with a question. So what do you choose for the digital dilemma? Are you willing to take a look below the iceberg and see all you have to change and all you want to look at? Or will you try to weather it with your head beneath the sun and hope that the digital and exponential storm passes over. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure, and I hope it's been interesting for you.
Tell you that it is okay to be afraid, and more than okay, that it is the starting point to you moving forward. So really thank you. Please join me, Jaime Rodríguez this morning, our first digital titan.